In the kaleidoscope of sawdust and sequins, Marcus Blackwood found his salvation beneath layers of grease paint and artificial smiles. At 37, he had mastered the art of transforming sorrow into spectacle, his weathered hands crafting balloon animals with the same precision they once used to braid his daughter's hair. The circus was his refuge, a world where reality bent like the mirrors in the funhouse, where tragedy could masquerade as comedy, and where a broken heart could hide behind a red nose. His daughter Emma had been his anchor to the world outside the big top. Even as the demands of circus life pulled him away for months at a time, their bond remained unbreakable, strengthened by late-night video calls and the stories he would weave about his adventures under the stars. She was 7 when he last saw her, her golden curls bouncing as she ran to embrace him, her laughter echoing through their modest home like wind chimes in a summer breeze. The training camps were necessary evils, 3-month periods of isolation where new acts were born and old ones were polished to perfection. The current camp, nestled in the shadow of distant mountains, was where Marcus was developing his most ambitious performance yet, a complex piece that combined classical clowning with elements of stage magic and acrobatics. The separation from Emma gnawed at him, but he consoled himself with thoughts of her pride when she would eventually see him perform. It was during these camps that Marcus first noticed Lily among the audience members at their preview shows. She appeared like a ghost from his memories, the same age as Emma, with similar golden curls and a laugh that cut through the circus noise like a familiar song. Her parents brought her to every performance, and she watched with the same wide-eyed wonder that Emma had shown when he would practice his routines at home. In Lily's presence, the ache of separation from his own daughter seemed both sharper and somehow more bearable. The news came on a Tuesday, delivered through a trembling phone call from his ex-wife. Emma had been crossing the street after school, a moment of childhood distraction, a driver too busy with their phone, the details blurred together like tears on a painted face, the world tilted on its axis, colors bleeding into gray, the circus music transforming into a discordant dirge that would never cease. Grief manifested first as paralysis. Marcus lay in his trailer, surrounded by the props and costumes that had once brought joy, now mockingly hollow in their gaiety. The other performers tried to help, but their words of comfort bounced off him like rubber balls off a wall. The show must go on, they said, but how could it when his world had stopped turning? Depression settled over him like a heavy cloak, transforming his movements into those of a marionette with tangled strings. His performances became mechanical, his smile a grotesque mask that threatened to crack and reveal the devastation beneath. But it was during one of these performances that something inside him shifted. Watching Lily's golden curls catch the spotlight, the grief mutated, twisted by the funhouse mirrors of his mind, into something darker, more insidious. Why should other fathers still have their daughters? Why should this child, this echo of his Emma, continue to laugh and play while his own daughter lay cold in the ground? The thoughts came unbidden, poisonous whispers that grew louder with each passing day. His act began to change, subtle shifts that only he noticed, darker themes creeping in, the laughter he generated taking on a hollow quality that left audiences slightly unsettled without knowing why. The plan crystallized during a sleepless night, formed from equal parts madness and meticulous calculation. He began carrying a small vial, its contents carefully researched and obtained through channels he would later burn from his memory. The poison was elegant in its simplicity, tasteless, odorless, with a delayed reaction that would ensure his performance would be long over before its effects began to show. The final performance was to be his masterpiece, a culmination of everything he had learned in his years under the big top. The tent was packed, the air electric with anticipation. His costume was immaculate, every sequin in place, every button polished to a shine. The makeup he applied with trembling hands was perfect, white base, red nose, exaggerated smile hiding the darkness beneath. When the moment came to select a volunteer, his hand pointed to Lily with practiced spontaneity. She bounded onto the stage with the same enthusiasm Emma had always shown, her parents beaming proudly from their front row seats. The routine proceeded flawlessly, magic tricks that delighted the crowd, acrobatic sequences that drew gasps of amazement. Then came the moment he had carefully choreographed, a special treat for his brave volunteer, a colorful drink in a circus-themed cup that he presented with flourish. Lily drank deeply, thanking him with that painfully familiar smile. The audience applauded, unaware they were witnessing anything more than a charming interaction between clown and child. Marcus completed his performance with mechanical precision, each gesture and expression perfectly timed, while inside, a war raged between the father he had been and the monster grief had created. As the applause thundered and the lights dimmed, Marcus returned to his trailer, removed his makeup with shaking hands, and waited. The poison would take effect after she returned home, after the circus lights had dimmed, after all connections to him had been severed by time and distance. He had planned it perfectly, each detail considered with the same attention he once gave to planning Emma's birthday parties. The circus packed up that night, as it had countless times before, folding its magic into trucks and trailers, leaving only trampled grass and memories behind. But this time, Marcus carried more than just his props and costumes. He carried the weight of an innocence destroyed, a vendetta satisfied, a darkness embraced. Years later, the circus would continue its eternal circuit, and Marcus would still don his makeup and costume, but his performance had fundamentally changed. His clowning took on a quality that audiences found mesmerizing yet unsettling, his laughter carrying notes that seemed to come from somewhere beyond mirth. He had become a legend in the circus world, known for routines that walked the line between comedy and something darker, something that left viewers feeling both entertained and vaguely disturbed. The truth of that night remained locked within him, a secret written in grease paint and sealed with a child's trusting smile. In quiet moments, when the circus fell silent and the moon cast long shadows through his trailer window, he would sometimes see two golden-haired girls dancing at the edges of his vision, one who had been taken from him by fate, and one he had sent to join her in a twisted attempt at balancing the scales of his personal justice. The circus lights continued to spin, casting their kaleidoscope of colors across faces old and young, while beneath the grease paint and behind the practiced smile, Marcus Blackwood remained trapped in his own private show, a performance of guilt and grief that would run forever, with no final curtain call, no last bow, just the endless rotation of seasons marked by the rise and fall of the big top, and the sound of children's laughter that now haunted rather than healed. In the end, the circus moved on, as it always did, leaving behind only memories and mysteries. But for Marcus, every performance became a requiem, every laugh a lament, every smile a scar. He had become what he had always pretended to be, a figure of tragedy masked as comedy, a creature of shadows dressed in spotlight colors, a clown whose greatest trick was hiding the fact that his heart had died long before his body would follow. And so the show continued, night after night, town after town, the story of the grieving clown and his dark deed becoming just another whispered legend in the long and shadowy history of the circus. But in the quiet moments before dawn, when the makeup was off and the costume hung limp in the darkness, Marcus would sit alone in his trailer, haunted by the echoes of two laughters, one silenced by fate, the other by his own hand, both now playing eternally in the grand circus of his guilt-ridden mind.